welcome back. This is day 10, week 2, day 3, and today we're going to get into a little bit of administrative tasks on the server side, get a little technical here. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Let me actually blow up the text just a little bit here. And what I'm going to do is we're going to set up a couple different things on our server just to do some basic administrative tasks in scripting. First thing we're going to do is we will go out to the opt folder, which has essentially nothing in it right now. Whoops. See here, it's got the AWS folder. It's owned by root. We're going to go ahead and create a backup folder, something that's just going to hold stuff, just do some basic backup kind of stuff out there. And we have to do it as sudo because right now only root can create stuff in the opt folder. We'll take care of that in a little bit. So we're going to do mkdir, which is making a folder, make a directory. We're going to call it backup. And when I do that, it's going to ask for my password. And now I'm going to see that I've got a backup folder. I'm going to go right ahead and I'm going to chown that to me and the backup. We'll do the web group just to do that. And now we'll see that web owns it. Web is a group. I'm the owner. Now I'm going to do, because now that is in the opt folder, I'm going to go ahead and cd, which takes me back to my home. Notice I've got essentially nothing in my home. These are all dot folders. So if I do, if I do an ls-l, which is listing files. If I do it l, it's just things that are essentially non-system type files. If I do an a, it's going to get the files that start with a dot as well. So you can see I've got a lot of those sitting around in there. We created actually the .ssh one. These others are operating system storing type stuff. We won't really get too far into that. What we will do is we're going to create a link from our folder to the backup. So we're going to create a out to opt backup, and linked is to create a link. It's ln and then space -s space the folder and the name. So I'm just going to call it backup. And now what I will see is I have a backup folder sitting here. And if I go to the backup off of my home, then if I do a pwd, it tells me that I'm on home rob backup. But it's not going to show me anything useful here, but it does show me that I'm in that one that was owned by Rob. And just to show you, for example, so cd, go back to my home. So I just see my backup folder. I am going to create a backup. So what I want to do is first, let me do a shortcut to the web folder because I'm tired of doing that thing. So that var www html, I'm just going to call that web. And so now I'll see two folders. One is backup and one is web. So now if I go to web, I see my HMB. I'm going to go to my HMB and there's all of my WordPress stuff. I'm going to go ahead and in here, I'm going to back this all up. I'm going to do a tape archive, which is tar, which basically just pulls all the files together into one big, huge file. And I'm going to do, because I'm in the folder, I'm going to just do everything here. And oops, I'm sorry, I've got to name it first. So I'm going to call it web backup. We'll do web-backup.tar. So I know it's a tar file. And I'm going to do all of the files. So what it's going to do is it's going to give me a problem because I'm not able to write this file. But now, let's say let's go back to my home. And instead, I do the same command, but now I'm going to say, instead of star, I'm going to do, let's do it this way. Let's go back to there. Now, this is the reason I'm talking about this. I'm hesitating for a second. Is it's going to it's going to hold the folder structure. So if I do a tar star and grab everything off this folder, when I uncompress it, it's going to assume that there's no prefixes to any of the folders. If I were from here to do, let's say I do tar and I did web HMB, what it's going to do then is it's going to have everything's going to be web HMB. So let's show you that real quick. So I'm creating it. Where am I? Oh, some of that stuff's not readable. So I'm going to go ahead and just sudo it just to be safe, I think. Let me make sure. So if I go to web and I go to HMB, oh, because some of them, most of it's owned by Apache. Okay. So I'm going to go back and, oh, I have that. So let's just do a mkdir temp. And then I'm going to move or copy, but this basically move web dash back up to the temp. So now you can see my folders. I've got the one I created in the two links. I changed directory into temp. And now I can do a tar-x vf. CVF is a V is verbose, file is a file, and F is for file, and then you either extract it or combine it, basically. So I'm going to extract it right now. So I'm going to extract this guy. And what you see here is because I did it with that web HMB, it's actually got that folder structure there. So if I see it, see I've got a web, and if I look into web, it's got an HMB. So let's do this. I'm going to do an rm-rf. Make sure where you're at on this kind of stuff. So do a pwd. I'm in the temp folder, so I'm just going to do rm-rf star, which gets rid of everything underneath it. Nothing in the folder. Drop back. I'm going to remove directory rmdir temp. All right, now I'm back where I was. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go to web, go HMB, and now what I'm going to do is way back here. I'm doing up arrow, by the way. That's how, because up arrow and down arrow will get you back through old stuff. So I'm going to go to my home directory, which is a tilde / webbackup.tar, and do this. And you're going to see there's a bunch of these files here that I'm not going to be able to pull because of permissions. So for this particular case, and if you look, you can see that these have some weird little ownership things, and it's because of something that I messed up earlier. So if I can fix it. Let's just do it this way. Let's fix that. Let's make sure we get it here. So he's going to have to be root first, apparently. Now, okay, so it didn't like that Apache there. So now I've got everything fixed. So now if I go back up to my backup, now it's going to go in and pick everything up. So I've got everything fixed as far as ownership. You'll have to look for that kind of stuff. Sometimes you get some weirdness, especially copying files back and forth and stuff like that. So now if I cd back to my home, I can see that I have my backup there. So now if I move it to my backup folder, notice it's not there. If I look at backup, So if I look in the backup folder, I'll see that there's a file. Now I told you earlier, if we go to the op folder and go to that backup, we will see that that same folder is there. And notice it is there and ready to go. So we've created a backup file. Let's go ahead and back up our database as well. So let's go to backup folder. This is a little different. This one you can do from anywhere. So what I'm going to do, we're going to use a command called mysqldump, and you're going to give it the you can probably do it as root if you set it up. Otherwise, if you had another password set up, user set up, that would be fine. But we've set up root, and you gave it a password that hopefully you remember. That was the one you used to connect your database when you installed WordPress. And at that point, I'm going to, I got to remember what my database name is. So I'm going to go to database first because I forgot the name of my database. And if I go in, and I can go and look at it, I can go to MySQL space -u space root space -p, and then it's going to ask for my password. This is my database password, not my user password. So once I do that, I can log in. It will say show databases, and I can see the databases I've got. So this is the one that matters. That's the one from my blog. So I can quit out of there, and then I'm going to do a MySQL dump with the same user. So for now, I'm going to put the database name. I'm going to do a greater than, and I'm going to tell it the file I'm going to do it back to. So I'm going to call it db.sql because it is a SQL file. It's going to ask for my password, and it has now dumped out that file. You can see that db backup. If you want to look at it, you can do cat. It's going to be this nice big ugly thing. Boom. There's the database and all of the data in it. Not terribly useful, but it is useful if you want to restore your database, and now you've got a backup of it. So now that you've built all of these nice little pieces in, you may want to go ahead and do a little script. So we just did those things. What we can do is let's create a script that, go back to my home folder. I am going to create something to hold my scripts. And I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to create myself a nice little script to do this on a regular basis. So back into VI, let's call this backup.sh for shell. Hit I to go into insert mode. And then what we're going to do is, if you do hashtag bang, and then switch user shell, switch bin, /bin, bin /sh, basically tells you it's a shell script. So the first thing I wanted to do was I'm going to cd into, home rob web HMB, and then I'm going to do tar-cvf. I'm going to call it current web.tar, and except for it's going to be tilde, it's going to be to, and we're not going to use the tilde here because we don't know how it's going to be run, so it's going to go to home rob backup current web.tar star. So now that means it's going to change my directory to there. It's going to do a backup. Now I am going to go back to I'm going to go to the backup folder. So home rob backup. And there, I'm going to do a MySQL dump. Database, and I'm going to call it dbbackup.sql. And then hit escape and W, and then a Q. And now I will see my file there. I have to make it executable, so I have to do a chmod +X to the file. And then I can just do /backup, and it's going to run everything. And now it's asking me for my password. And now we've got a script that we can quickly back our stuff up. This is not ideal. There's some nice things that we want to do, like maybe delete older files, because like right now, if I do a look at my backups, this is always going to be the latest file. I don't have an older version, so we may want to put a timestamp on it or something like that as far as the file name. We can do that as part of our script. It can pull the timestamp off. We can regularly, recurringly run stuff. We'll get into that a little bit later. For now, we've created some directories. We've created some links so we can easily navigate around. We've got a few backup files. We're starting to get a sort of a feel for what our site can look like, what our server can do. Definitely take a look at the links on the daily email. It's going to give you some more commands, some good quick references and things like that that will allow you to quickly put your files together. One last bonus is gzip. That's like compression on, I think it's called compress on Windows and compress on Mac now. It's basically a zip from an old file format. This exists everywhere, so you can actually compress stuff. If you look right now, you'll see that these are, like a 69 meg file, the current web, and a database web backup there. Those two guys are pretty big. The database backup's pretty small. He's only 800K. But if I go in and I do a gzip, let's gzip current web. Whoop, I have to actually go to that folder. So if I go to my backup folder and then gzip the current web, it'll take a second, and then what I will see is now, see here it's got the gz, which shows that it's compressed. That's the compressed version. The old version doesn't exist anymore, and notice it went from about 69 meg to about 29 meg. And if I wanted to uncompress it, then all I have to do is do a gzip-d, and then the name of the file. And now it brings it back as it was before. See, exactly the same name. I could even do this. I could do a gzip star, and it's going to compress every file in this folder. It takes a few seconds, and now I can see that all of these are backed up. If I wanted to look at it, remember the database backup from before, it is now pretty useless binary file stuff. So not a lot in there, but now we've saved quite a bit of space. Notice that you've saved actually probably about 80 something meg. Notice the database script went from about 800K to about 173K. So that's not too bad. Getting a nice little boost there. There you go. There's some good things to get you started as far as backups, moving files around, compressing files, decompressing files, all that kind of fun stuff. That will do it for today. We will talk to you tomorrow, and we will just keep on chugging along on this. Until then, have a good one.